So guys, Friday evening, I finished work and my big fight weekend has begun, and it's a long weekend as well, so really looking forward to this weekend. 3 days off work, biggest fight of the year, Saturday night, Joshua versus Wladimir Klitschko. I've obviously caught up with today's events, caught up with the weigh-in, which was open to the public at Wembley Arena, and I just wanted to do a little video with some reaction to it, specifically the Joshua Klitschko weigh-in, obviously. We'll start by talking about Wladimir Klitschko. Wladimir Klitschko looked in truly tremendous physical condition. Now, Wladimir Klitschko always looks in very good physical condition, so that perhaps shouldn't be a surprise. But when you're so used to seeing someone look so good and so, physically fit and in condition, it's actually quite eye-catching when their physique has noticeably improved for a new fight. And I think that's the case with Wladimir Klitschko. He's a guy who's now 41 years old, and for me, he looks better than ever. Seriously, I mean, apparently, well, not apparently, it's a fact, he weighed in at 240 pounds, which is the lightest he's been for a weigh-in for the past 8 years. So Wladimir Klitschko truly in tremendous physical condition. He's talked a lot in this build-up about being obsessed, and maybe this shape he's in and the weight he's coming at is a product of that obsession. Maybe he's been absolutely killing himself in the gym. He's clearly not someone who's done a Tyson Fury and blown up during the inactive period. He's kept himself in the gym, he's kept himself in shape, he's kept himself obsessed, and I thought Vlad looked really as good as he's ever been on the weigh-in. Now, of course, getting in such great physical shape doesn't mean that the speed's going to be there, it doesn't mean that the reflexes is going to be there, but what it does mean is that Vlad is taking this very seriously, and he's very fit, which is probably something we could have presumed regardless. A lot of people online speculating that this lighter weight is possibly a product of him looking to try and fight a mobile fight against a guy like Joshua. And do you know what? That's probably sensible. For me, Klitschko's advantages in this fight will be if he's able to establish his jab. And for me, the best way he's going to be able to establish his jab against Joshua is if he moves and jabs. And every time Joshua sets his feet, he moves to the side and throws a jab, moves backwards and throws a jab. Keep moving up the distance, keep moving up the range. I think if he does that, Joshua's possibly going to have more trouble finding him in the ring, because Joshua's the kind of guy. For me, he's at his most deadly when he's allowed to get in that three-quarter range, stand there, slip shots or, duck under punches and then come up with a counter. And that's going to be a lot harder to do if Vlad is a mobile target. Vlad's also probably of the mindset that that Joshua may try and get him out of there early and may try and steamroll him, and perhaps that lighter weight is going to mean that he's able to be faster on his feet going backwards. It may mean that he's able to be more elusive in the corners if he finds his back to the ropes, etc. So obviously you can't read too much into a weigh-in. This weigh-in doesn't necessarily tell us anything definitive. It doesn't confirm tactics for the fight, but you've got to be impressed by the shape Wladimir Klitschko's in, and clearly he has put a huge amount of effort into this fight to make his lightest weight in 8 years at the age of 41. Joshua, by contrast, weighed in at his career heaviest, 250 pounds. Now, I should say, when I've said that he weighed in at his career heaviest, that's not to say that he's come in fat or bloated or swollen in any way. Like Klitschko, Joshua's a guy who's always in good shape. These are not two guys who blow up between fights. These are not two guys who pile on the pounds, etc. So Joshua still looked in very good physical condition. He still looked ripped. He looked in very good shape. He did look, and I guess this is typical of Joshua, his muscle did look a lot more bulky than Vlad. They're both very big guys, and they're not of dissimilar dimensions, but somehow there's a sort of leanness and a graininess to Vladimir's muscle, whereas Joshua's kind of muscle, especially in his his pecs and his arms, it's really sort of heavy set, bulked up muscle. And there was a lot of that today on Joshua, and as you'd expect, £250 career heaviest. It is only £1 higher than the Molina fight, and I guess Joshua's getting older. You know, he's not an old man, he's still a young heavyweight, but I guess as you get into your late 20s or your mid to late 20s, you just naturally become a heavier build, which is probably what's happening to Anthony Joshua, and you know, etc. But it is interesting, the dynamic that Vlad's coming at a low weight and that Joshua's coming at a career high weight. Potentially, you know, if we see Vlad take Joshua into the 9th, 10th, or even the championship rounds, we know that's uncharted territory for Joshua. We know that's territory he's never been in his career before. We know that's territory that Wladimir Klitschko is very comfortable in, having been there time and time again. You know, he went there against Tyson Fury, he went there against Bryant Jennings, he went there against Povetkin, he went there against Hay. You know, so if we do get to the 9th or 10th round in this fight, and I'm dubious that will happen, in my mind, I'll be thinking, you know, potentially that weight is going to start to have an impact, because you know, when your arms are as big and as heavy and as bulky as Joshua's, you know, even throwing a jab and sticking your arm out there for 12 rounds is going to be hard if you're having to move, if you're having to chase, if you're having to evade. So I think that's interesting. I think it's an interesting dynamic to the fight. I wonder if Joshua's purposely tried to put on a bit of extra weight, expecting Wladimir Klitschko to maybe try and hold him, or you know, to try and lean on him. I wonder if Joshua's thinking that he wants to rush Wladimir Klitschko and maybe try and steamroll him early, and you know, maybe he was inclined to come in slightly heavier with that in mind, or maybe you know, maybe neither guy's really put in a tactic. Maybe they've both trained very, very hard, and that's meant a slight amount of muscle growth for Joshua and a slight amount of fat decrease for Klitschko, which has created these weights. You know, but it was an interesting weigh-in, and the two guys are both in, you know, truly fantastic condition. So at least one indicator that this could be, you know, a very, very good fight and a very competitive fight that we've got ahead of us this weekend. Other observations from the weigh-in: Klitschko looks slightly taller than Joshua, but a number of people are telling me that's because he was wearing his high heels that we've seen him in before. He seems to always wear, you know, I'm not 100% sure how best to phrase it, if you want to call them platform shoes or maybe powerlifting shoes, something like that, but he seems to wear a shoe with quite a substantial heel, because we've seen other photos of Wladimir Klitschko where he is you know, a very similar size to Joshua, or you could maybe make an argument that perhaps Joshua is even slightly taller than Wladimir Klitschko. But in the weigh-in today, you know, Klitschko looked the substantially taller man, especially during the face-off. So, presuming that's probably because Joshua had just weighed in and maybe he was barefoot and Klitschko was wearing his weightlifting shoes. But you know what Vlad's like, there's always a bit of psychology. He's always bringing the old man techniques and tactics to the game. So, you know, very possibly it was just some of that at work in this particular fight, as opposed to you know, the fact that Joshua's shrunk overnight or Klitschko's grown overnight. But yeah, all in all, the closer we get, the more pumped I am for this fight. You know, very, very excited to see it tomorrow, kind of hoping that the next 24 hours fly by, so you know, it'll be time to watch the fights before you know it. Comments on the undercard: I understand that Darley's Perez missed weight against Luke Campbell. Obviously that fight was made at the lightweight limit, which is £135, and I understand that Darley's Perez initially weighed in at 136.3 pounds. I'm just having a look online now to see if he's come back, and no, he didn't try and make weight again. As a result, the fight only works as an eliminator for Luke Campbell as opposed for Darley's Perez. So Darley's Perez coming into the ring heavy. Let's see if that means that he struggled and will put in a lesser performance, or perhaps he'll be stronger against Luke Campbell, bearing in mind he's got an extra bit of weight. You know, I guess that fight was announced at relatively short notice, 3 weeks prior, so the fact he struggled to make it is, you know, not absolutely crazy. At the weigh-in today, big beef between Tony Bellew and Deontay Wilder. I think we're going to do a separate Tony Bellew video, maybe later this evening or perhaps tomorrow morning, because a lot of people are wanting me to discuss Bellew Parker and Bellew Wilder, so perhaps we'll do a separate Tony Bellew video to come. But yeah, all in all, weigh-in, has increased my appetite for this fight. Press conference yesterday, it wasn't the most crazy press conference in terms of bad blood and drama, but yeah, the fight sells itself. Buzzing for this one, people. Let me know your thoughts on the weigh-in. Let me know your thoughts on Joshua being career heaviest. Is that a positive or a negative? Let me know your thoughts on what you made of Klitschko's shape and him coming in so light. Does that represent a tactical decision from Klitschko? Leave your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up. If you're new, do take the time to subscribe so that you can be notified of all of my content over this weekend. Obviously, post-fight videos, reactions, etc. It's going to be a huge night of boxing. If you are an existing subscriber, please take the opportunity to hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you get the notifications when I upload. As always, guys, many thanks for tuning in and for watching my channel. Comment, like, subscribe. Cheers all.